What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. It's time we talk campaigns again. Is Pierre Poilievre heating up the campaign trail? Now, while Pierre is rocking it with sellout large venue rally crowds, over 6,000 people in certain aspects of Ontario, I still believe Pierre is on the track to a majority government. I don't think Mark Carney has a chance in hell of winning this next election, especially once the debates hit. Very anxious to live stream that debate. I think it's going to be fantastic. One of the things I want to talk about today is how the media is spiraling out of control. They're worried, they're panicking. Of course, Pierre Poilievre has said before he intends to defund the CBC. He has never said that he's going to put them out of business, but simply stop wasting government funds for a propaganda machine. They can find their own funding. Catherine Tate can go out and find her own sponsors. She can pay her own bills and do her job just as anybody else in this country does. I want to show a tweet from a good friend, Ryan Garrettson, from the channel. Ryan tweeting out here, this takes media bias to another level. The Toronto Star is on full panicking mode. As you see here, Pierre Poilievre's agenda is radically different than Carney, and it's frightening. Pierre is an anti-government extremist whose views are rooted in the radical libertarian economic vision, according to the Toronto Star. Now, we know how woke the Toronto Star is. Let's not pretend that they're good journalism, but this is funny at best. Keep in mind the Toronto Star also receives massive handouts in government funds, which are to be cut off. Essentially, they're scrambling because their business is failing. Now, if the polls were accurate, ladies and gentlemen, if the Toronto Star believed the polls that Mark Carney was in a position to win this next election, why are they scrambling to put out these articles? Why are they pushing so hard to indoctrinate the sheeple that Pierre Poilievre is not the choice for Canadians moving forward? It's so hilarious. I want to show a clip from Pierre as well. Now, this comes to us from Canadian Capital Clips, though I wanted the source because he's got the clip and I didn't want to have to comb through a bunch of the audio wasn't as good on other feeds as he's got in this video, so we'll highlight his video. Again, shout out to Canadian Capital Clips. Let's take a look at what Pierre had to say to a CTV reporter who tried to throw him under the bus. Again, this is going to be the rhetoric moving forward. They're going to do everything in their power to try and prevent Pierre from a majority government, and they're failing miserably in good fashion. Let's take a look.
Hi, Abigail Beeman, CTV News. Your party has dropped 4 candidates in 2 days. How can Canadians be convinced of your vetting process for people you believe are fit to govern this country? And here in Kingston, how does that vetting process extend to Mr. Patterson for his previous connection to a church that supported conversion therapy?
Well, first of all, you omitted from your question that Mr. Patterson renounced conversion therapy years ago. And so the question is not accurate. Secondly, our vetting process is stronger than all the other parties. That's why we have a zero tolerance for anyone who acts unacceptably. This is the exact opposite of what we saw from Mr. Carney, who tried to keep on as a candidate someone who had asked for his conservative opponent to be handed over to the Chinese Communist government on a bounty, to be imprisoned or maybe murdered because he was a dissident against that government.
So what's funny about this, and what I love about this statement from Pierre, now first off, he's got more charisma than Mark Carney because he's not sitting here going before he answers a question. This man knows his facts. He knows they have nothing on him, and this is what confidence looks like, ladies and gentlemen. When you look at the body language, when you look at the structure of speaking between Mark Carney, between Pierre Poilievre, Pierre seems to be telling accurate, factual truths. Mark Carney generating lies. Pierre's able to enunciate himself properly because he's speaking fact. This is why he's a better leader than Mark Carney. Does anybody really believe that a billionaire took time out of his busy schedule with Brookfield to run for the little guy in office? Mark Carney's dangerous to Canada. Let's continue Because Pierre absolutely slams, again, knowing his facts to put these reporters in check. Tried to get them with a gotcha that, hey, your guys are dropping out. Well, they were unacceptable, so we got rid of them. Mark Carney, on the other hand, with Paul Chang, did not. He says, it's a teaching moment. Let's move forward.
Carney said that it was a teachable moment. He's right. It taught all of us that Mark Carney will never put Canada first. He sold out. He went to China to get a $250 million loan from the Chinese government while he was Justin Trudeau's economic advisor. He met with top officials in the central bank. He met with the mayor of Beijing. He built his own profit off of compromising himself and his company. He still has those compromises because he has money, untold millions, invested in Brookfield that owes all of this money still to the government in Beijing. So how are we going to know when he's acting for Canada rather than acting for his bottom line? And that's why I reiterate my call. Your question was about vetting. Well, Canadians should be able to vet Mark Carney's conflicts of interest by having him publish all of his financial interests so that Canadians know what interests he has that go against Canada's national interests. After the lost Liberal decade of selling out our economy, driving away our resources, taxing away our jobs, we can't afford to give Liberals a fourth term. We need a new Conservative government that will bring home the jobs to this country so we can stand up for ourselves in a position of strength for a change. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Poilievre. My
morning.
name is Bill Hutchins with Kingstonist.com.
Hi, Bill.
How are you?
Now, this is a good one because Pierre really puts the boots to this reporter as well. He starts out with talking about John A. Macdonald, again, wanting to restore Canada's history. The confidence level here even strikes conversation with the reporter because he knows what's coming. Pierre's on fire here, ladies and gentlemen. Next Prime Minister of Canada, by the way.
Great. How did you like our rally yesterday?
It was nice. Big crowd.
Very big. How many people do you think were there?
3,000 to 4,000.
It's pretty big. When was the last time you had that in Kingston?
It's been a while.
Yeah.
But I understand.
Now watch this. This is where the reporter tries to make headway. Well, yeah, you had a big crowd, but this is why the media is scrambling, and it's so funny, ladies and gentlemen.
I understand too that a lot of your supporters came out from across the region as well, not just this riding. So
that was nice of them in this rain. It was a rough night to drive in. I don't know. Did John A. Macdonald have crowds like that when he was the MP here?
He may have had a few crowds around City Hall back in the day. As a matter of fact, I was going to ask you about one of the questions I'm going to ask you is about putting Sir John A.'s statue back in Kingston and the impact that might have on Indigenous relations and truth and reconciliation. But I did want to also touch on this other question here that experts have predicted that Kingston will be kind of shielded from the impact of the severest impact of the tariff war, partly because we're a government town. Lots of government employees, including a large military base, as you know. But you talk about slashing government jobs and bureaucracy as part of your platform. So I want to know what you would say to those anxious federal workers in this and other communities across the country. Are their jobs safe in these uncertain times?
So again, I don't want to take away from Canadian Capital clips. I'm not going to show the whole video, but Pierre essentially comes out and says, no, their jobs are fine so long as they hold relevancy within the government. We're going to boost our military. We're going to fund our military. We're going to get rid of jobs that normally end with people leaving for other opportunities or people who are only here temporarily. It really is telling when you hear the questions coming from these woke reporters asking about reconciliation and the reason that, oh, you're going to bring back a controversial first Prime Minister of Canada. How dare you, Pierre Poilievre? To which he says, well, yeah, we're going to put it back because it's part of our history. The whole point of history, while some days are darker than others, is that you're supposed to learn from history. You're supposed to embrace history as a teaching tool that, hey, you know what? While some good things came out of that time period, some bad things also happened. Let's not repeat that again. Let's be better. Now, that being said, I don't necessarily agree with people pulling down the statue of Sir John A. Macdonald. I don't agree with people destroying Canada's history, trying to erase history. This is all part of the plan of the woke left. That's a whole topic for another day. The whole bottom line here is Pierre is knocking it out of the park. These journalists can't stomach the fact that Pierre is having rallies in record turnout crowds, that Pierre is drawing more people than ever, while Mark Carney sits in pubs that hold 60 people using mirrors to try and come across as though they have some kind of staying power. The writing is on the wall, ladies and gentlemen, and while I'm not going to count my chickens before they hatch, I always say it all comes down to election day. It comes out to those who are going to vote. Again, if you haven't got your voter registration complete yet, please go and do it. Please go and vote. Even if you regularly don't vote, this election is the most important election of our generation. Make sure you get out and vote in this election. We need to find a way to put Pierre in a massive, massive majority government. I don't think the Liberals have any staying power. That's just my personal opinion. Let me know what you guys think down below. Is Pierre hitting the nails on the head? Is he doing what he needs to do to win his position as Prime Minister? Or do you think that Mark Carney still poses a threat against Pierre moving into this election, even after what's going to be a visceral debate? Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Make sure you're subscribing to this channel as well as multiple other channels that you follow for Canadian content. I know some have been removed from the platform. They're trying to do everything they can to silence people. So now is the time to subscribe to not just this channel, but every channel you follow for politics on YouTube. Make sure while you hit that subscribe button, click your bell for all notifications so that you're notified when all video content drops, as well as our live streams, which, speaking of which, join me Friday night, every Friday, for Friday Night Fringe, our live streaming show, where I'm joined by my very beautiful wife, Mrs. Fringe, as we go back and forth about everything that's happened this week in politics, everything we know that's coming up ahead, as well as hearing your Q&A within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I look forward to hearing what you have to say in those live streams, and I look forward to hearing most of what you have to say this Friday night, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.